We live in an era where the shelf life of the technical skill is shorter than the time that takes to earn a degree. In the past, we went to school to learn a trade for life, but today the trade might get obsolete by the time you have mastered it. This has brought us to the startling realization that the most valuable skill in 2026 is not only AI, not only coding, or not only data science, but it is what governs everything. It's the meta skill of learning to learn. Today, on the Learning Company, we are exploring what it means to learn, what it means to unlearn, and what it means to relearn at a pace. Joining me today is a veteran with over 2 decades of experience who has lived at the very heart of global talent strategy. Having served as a senior leader at EY, where he managed global immigration and spearheaded the future of work initiatives, he has seen firsthand how the mechanics of the global workforce are changing. Beyond the boardroom, he has been instrumental in the academic world as well. He has helped the IIM Ahmedabad to set up a school of public policy. Today, he is a PCC certified coach, an EMCC senior practitioner, and a powerful voice for senior leaders navigating their own career pivots. He is also the host of Career Shifts podcast and the author of upcoming book, The Other Half of Success, which we'll talk a little bit more on that. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Career Shift Consulting, Gopal Iyer. Gopal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for this opportunity, and would love to see what we can do more about careers and, of course, how coaching helps people and leaders as well.
Absolutely. So we were catching up before this, and I have to confess something, Gopal. In my career as a chartered accountant, I've been hardwired to see the numbers, see the profitability. People expect me to talk about return on investments or profitability or the growth. But here I am today with sitting and leading the learning company in the world of AI, talking about neuroscience, talking about meta skills. So the question that raises to me is, does a leader have to relearn some of the stuff to when he becomes a leader? What do you think?
Well, very interesting that you say that, right? I mean, we perhaps started our careers way back, almost sounds like a dinosaur age, but no, not really.
Right.
But way back when we started our career, the whole notion was that you study, complete your graduation, post-graduation, start working, and most often the conversations between us and our parents would always be that just do this much and you'll be okay. Just finish 10th and you'll be okay. Just finish 12th and you'll be okay, and so on. But today we live in a world where most of the organizations want you to be learning every year. I mean, of course, there are mandated hours where you need to learn, do different kind of courses, online, offline, etc. But the fact remains that one has to keep themselves reinvented through learning. Now, when we talk about learning, it's not that we keep on adding learning. Learning, of course, has an expiry date as well.
Correct.
You have a shelf life of everything that we learn. For example, a few years ago, maybe about a decade ago, we would talk a lot about big data, Hadoop. Today, we don't talk about any of those as much. Of course, they were foundational to talk about AI today. But the fact remains that we need to keep on unlearning and relearning. And that's what I would agree with. I'll concur with you with the fact that there has to be that relearning aspect that we need to keep on focusing. So with you on that part.
We hosted something called as Pearson Skill Summit 2026. We had our global leaders coming in, and our global leader, Umar Abush, was talking about, he made a very provocative statement. He said, while people fear for AI taking their jobs, in fact, it is going to be a massive opportunity, provided you understand and you realize that learning is a skill, right? So in your 2 decades of your experience that you have been in, what's your take on that?
In the last 12 months, I mean, I've been a solopreneur, and it has really given me insights into how effective and efficient some of these AI tools can be. Now, I could choose to say that I don't want to learn about it. I don't want to learn it. I don't know what to do about it. But the fact remains that if you're open to learn, there is a lot that AI can offer. I also know for a fact that a lot of people resist this learning. And it is those kind of people that may find it harder to adapt to the changing environment, right? So it's not so much about whether AI will take your job, whether you are able to demonstrate the ability to use AI and effectively deliver. That's going to be the differentiator. So if you're talking to someone who has been using AI in getting the work done and talking to someone who is not using AI and still getting the job done, you will see a stark difference in the output. You'll see a stark difference in the time the person takes to get the work done. Maybe the person is a little more thorough, but at times, in times where we are in, where speed and agility is also an important trait that we measure leaders on, it is the ability to deliver quickly, smartly that matters. And guess what? Today, AI tools have access to everything in terms of what is happening in the world of geopolitics, what is happening in the world of business. And if you were to really sit down and ask someone to bring it all together and create a strong point of view, that's going to be humanly impossible. A person may not really have that particular insight at that given point of time, which is where AI helps you, which is where you need to know how to learn the newer age skills. And it's like that, right? I mean, if you are in a new country, you try to learn the language of that country.
Correct.
And I think human beings, we need to realize that that's where we have found ourselves in the current situation.
At Pearson, we are obsessed with learning as a science. We talk about the neuroscience, we talk about the cognitive behaviors, beyond how humans actually encode information, right? So we cannot name it just as a training. It's not just a training, it's about how of that process is really important. So according to you, how can a busy professional, and leaders are mostly decades of experience, are not in a classroom, right? And then how do you actually master a technique without going into the classroom of learning to learn? I think that's going to be an important.
Today, most of the organizations have multi-pronged learning approach. So no longer, unlike in, let's say, 20 years ago rather, where people would be called in to sit in a classroom and learn, which still is the best way of learning. No doubt about it. Classroom experiential learning is the best form of learning, but it's luxurious as well at times, right? But today you have access to a lot of learning aids, tools. You have books that are available. You have audibles that are available. You have podcasts that are available, and all at a fraction of cost that one can imagine, right? I mean, it doesn't even cost you that much. And if it's an organization-funded initiative, you have access to so many information. So if you really ask me, we have a problem of plenty, right? I mean, it's not lack of opportunities.
Correct.
Now, how do you really sit down and curate what is the right thing for you? That's going to be the most important element. I encourage most of the coaches who work with me to do this activity on an annual basis, to say that, okay, this is where I am in my life and stage of my career. Where do I want to see myself at least in the next 12 months? It's an easier fix. I mean, you are in this level in this organization, you want to learn, you want to grow to the next level, and what are some of the things that you need to do? Work towards that, and then you create a learning plan for yourself. It could be a combination of some podcasts that you will listen to, some e-learning courses that you would do, and then go about it, right? But as people progress to senior leadership, one of the biggest challenges that they come up with is, I'm unable to inspire people. And which is where storytelling becomes a very important task. Are you able to inspire people through stories? Unfortunately, rather fortunately, if I can say that, the only way to do this is to practice. And that's where fear comes into picture, fear of failure, fear of judgment. And I think we need to figure out a way to overcome that. Once we do that, I think it's still a doable thing.
So taking a small steps on a and navigate through it slowly. I think that's the key,
Yeah.
right? So otherwise,
Absolutely.
if I keep a vision for, let's say, 10 years or 20 years,
Yeah.
things keep changing,
Yeah,
so evolving. So at
absolutely.
least start with yearly, then keep it 2 or 3 years,
Correct.
and then kind of plan your
Correct.
learning. That's a great way to put it. There's an identity shift happening, right? So especially in the leadership level. We are seeing top executives admit that they had to turn back into a primary learners. Okay, and then, but during the learning process, they're also doing some of their job. But for someone with, again, a lot of experience that you have had and authority, admitting that a person that, I am a beginner again, is also an emotional hurdle. Let's be very honest about it. Like you said, I have to plan every year to sit and plan, okay, what do I want to learn this year? It's kind of, I'm starting to be a beginner. How do you coach the leaders, especially this emotional hurdle? How do you help them?
One of the things my coach once told me was that the biggest problem that we suffer is the fact that we know. If we believe that I don't know answer to this, then we approach this with curiosity.
Right.
And that's very much important to get the beginner's mindset. If you really look at today's leadership across most of the organizations, the trait that is missing is vulnerability. How vulnerable am I with people who are above me, how people around my peer group, or with people reporting into me, to accept to say that, I am equally not sure about what this is. And if you really dig deeper, the answer comes out as it makes me look weak.
Right.
Right? And that's a fair, very fair point for people to say that. But what if you were to say that I don't know the answer to this, but let's figure out together. I'm with you. I'm as equal unknown about where will we end with this, but let's do this together. I think that will become much more powerful for the teams as well. And look what is happening around the world today. That's where one of the traits that we needed to teach a lot of leaders and allow them to practice more of is the ability to be vulnerable. Unfortunately, also, we haven't really focused much on self-awareness as the need. With coaching coming into a lot of center stage of leadership conversations, investments are being made to ensure that the leaders are self-aware, which I think is a great news. The more leaders who go through some sessions to understand where they stand, I am sure these are changes that you will see in leadership.
So we are moving toward proof of work economy, right?
Yeah.
So how can professionals build credibility that a resume cannot actually capture it?
Sure.
So,
In fact, we have two problems today, right? I mean, probably this problem did not exist a decade ago, but
Right.
one, we have far too many people focused on signaling the knowledge that they have, and that comes from the fact that they want to do some kind of upskilling through, let's say, the top-notch institutions around the world. 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you did not have a Stanford or a MIT offering a course for people sitting in India. I mean, if you had to do a course there, you had to spend money and go travel, and that was unaffordable. But thanks to COVID, I think that barrier has been brought down, and anyone sitting anywhere in the world is able to do courses. So that is one part of this situation where people want those degrees to signal that this is who I am, this is what I have done. And there is a lot of effort that a lot of people are taking towards that. The second is what you are sharing, which is the proof of work. Now it's a double-edged sword, really, right? I mean, today things are moving at the pace at which even before you show the proof of work on a particular skill, the skills have changed, the AI models have changed, the expectations of the clients have changed. Today, models are deciding whether, I mean, I was just reading a news article the other day that models are actually deciding the lending patterns. Would banks have a job? Would banks be doing the work of lending to the customers in the future? If AI is going to do a lot of that, where do we need bankers, right? So the other is that, right? I mean, how are you catching up to that part of it?
Right.
So both are a challenge, right? And in that, it is your ability to share what you have learned in a form of a story that connects, right? So if I say I have done, let's say, a design thinking course from Stanford, it's a credential that I have done. How am I demonstrating that in terms of being able to show the outcome
Of that course.
of the work that I have learned or the process that I have learned? Similarly, coaching. How am I coaching in terms of how effective am I as a coach when I'm coaching a leader or a professional for that matter? Which only can be measured by individuals when they really pause, right? Otherwise, it becomes a great tool to showcase fantastic skills that you have learned, put them on your LinkedIn profiles. But at the end of the day, it may not, I mean, there is no end to it. One has to demonstrate those in the day-to-day work
Right.
to be able to show that, right? And that's where I would encourage a lot of leaders or professionals to figure out, if you're learning something new, how are you able to show the outcome? You might have met the learning objective, but are you able to see the end result changing somewhere? That's
Practical.
practical.
I think that's more important. Right?
Absolutely.
It's not just a degree or a certificate.
Yeah.
I also did a certification, but am I really implementing it in my work?
Correct.
Day-to-day
Absolutely.
life? That matters a lot. Absolutely. Gopal, we were talking about it when we were during a coffee. You have worked with academics, right? So you have worked with institutions like IIM, Ahmedabad, IBS. You are still continuing to work,
Yes.
right? So what does 2030, and we spoke about that, short term, what does short term or 2030 readiness looks like for you from the institutions and the learner standpoint?
The first aircraft was designed by Wright brothers not because someone taught them how to do it. Like, there was no academic institution that told them this is how you should design an aircraft. They did it, and then the academia did research on it, learned it, understood the dynamics, and then started teaching it. So by design, academia will always be playing the role of a catching up, right? And the classic example of that is that how many institutions today have actively embedded AI into the curriculum? AI has gone multifold, right? I mean, today between 2022 and 2026, see the amount of models that have come up, see the amount of organizations that have invested into AI and creating products out of it.
True.
We see people in academia still go back into the basic version of ChatGPT, Copilot, and other AI tools. Again, no endorsements, just some generic names that people refer to. And at max that they would have done would be to talk about prompt engineering as a course, or use cases in marketing or HR and so on, right? But how many institutions actually get into developing models? Very rarely. Maybe the IITs would do this, or the technology or engineering institutions may be doing some work in that space. But we're also seeing that the difference between management and engineering education is collapsing, right? Today, we need an engineering graduate to be as good in management to be able to sell the products that he's creating, and vice versa, right? I mean, management guy person should also understand the engineering element of the products as well. So there is a lot of catching up that needs to be done. Our industry is allowing faculty members to get internships to learn what is happening on the ground and go back and teach the same to the students. The answer to both of this may be partially true, right? One, of course, there is an intent aspect, and then there is, of course, the interest aspect. Are they both enough to the degree with which it needs to be? Perhaps there is a lot of work that needs to be done in that space. So as long as that is not happening, the 2030 dream seems to be a little bit of a challenge for me. I'm not saying that everything will collapse. Absolutely not. There will be takers for this who will be, again, the intent and interest would be higher enough for them to work towards it, you will see the top 10, 20% coming out of it and still be phenomenal in what they're doing. But people who are not being able to catch up to those changing dynamics in the world will find it a bit of a challenge as they progress to 2030. And that's the unfortunate reality that we are all going to see.
Let's talk a little bit different.
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
About your new venture or new challenge that you have taken, the other half of success.
The book, yes.
The book about it. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So the book, The Other Half of Success, is now live on Amazon. It went live. It's doing very well. Where did this idea of the other half of success come from, right? I mean, a few years ago, as more and more coaching I did, and spoke to a lot of people through the last few years of my coaching journey, I realized that there is a big disconnect that people carry, right? And the disconnect is as a result of the pace at which the organization wants you to perform is at a particular level, and the pace at which you are able to perform is at another level, right? And there is a calibration challenge that you find yourself in. Typically, people in mid careers who are like 35 to 55, and there is no fixed tenure for whether it would start at 35. There are people who start mid career problems at 30 as well, and sometimes people experience mid career blues even at 60, for that matter, right? So there is no, range per se, but let's, for the sake of conversation, think about 35 to 55. Most of them have been there and done that, right?
Correct.
In some form, right? You might have found that you have either arrived or perhaps arriving almost there. But at what cost? As we spoke about the mid-career leaders just a while ago, the fact is that you have to give a lot to be able to be successful, right? I mean, the fact is that you have to spend long hours. You have to be focused on giving more value than the investment that is being made by the organization. You spend more time on traveling for work. You spend commuting for work as well is a big element. So in this, the relationships unfortunately takes a beating, right? I mean, the relationship with family, friends, colleagues, most importantly yourself, right? And it shows up in emotional well-being, physical well-being, financial well-being, and it kind of starts showing up where things start slightly going downhill as soon as you're unable to have a hold on it, right? So my book actually has 5 parts to it, which beautifully speaks about the phases that we go through. And the first one being drift, like we keep drifting away, right? Without really understanding what is happening to us. You may be successful, but don't feel the success, happiness. So that's the drift part. Then you have a stir part, right? Stir being you feel a very different kind of churn within your mind, body, that, okay, I'm not sure what this is, right? Then the shift part, right? You now have understood that there is a challenge that you need to work towards. How do you shift from here? Then the alignment, like how do you align towards the actual needs? What is sometimes some of the things that you need to do to bring things together? So are you really looking at careers in the right manner? Are you looking at the parameters of success in the right manner? Are you looking at relationships in the right manner? What if tomorrow the identity that you have built all this while of being a successful CEO, that organization that doesn't exist, or you're not in that organization? If that happens, what is your identity, right? Who are you? That's a question. Right. And then you moving towards the conscious decision that you need to make in life to be able to be better aligned, better calibrated. And that's the phase called move, right? You move towards that. And the way I have kind of brought these is through stories of conversations that I've had with coaches, the podcast that I run, fantastic guests who shared their stories. In fact, they have poured their heart into sharing their stories. And how do you then calibrate those into actions that people, readers can take, right? That's the approach that I have taken to write this book. I'm sure, I mean, it's not a framework book again.
Okay. So we have a next section to catch you a bit
Oh,
on
sure.
this, and it's called a rapid fire round.
Absolutely.
I'll ask you 3 questions, and you have a couple of minutes to answer each
Sure.
one of them. So the first question to you, Gopal, is what is the last thing that you learned or tried that made you feel little like a completely, slightly frustrated beginner?
Ah, every day. I was just chatting with someone the other day about creating something for the book, and this person taught me how to use Notebook LM.
Okay.
And I was not even sure about. I mean, I had known about Notebook LM and the work that it does, but the power of it, right? Yeah, it sometimes is scary, but it also gives you enough and more perspectives about how to enhance your storytelling,
Right.
how to enhance your ability to connect. How can you use visuals to tell a story? How can you bring in, and it does phenomenal research as well, which is fantastic. So that was the learning that I took. But if you really go through the traditional way of a frustrating learning experience, I would say it was a few years ago when I tried my hands on a keyboard.
Okay. Which I tried to.
wasn't 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 a success,
Right.
unfortunately. But I would definitely say that it's any form of vocational training learning pushes you hard enough. uh, Perhaps there is a neuroscience to it as well, to say that you start thinking differently and acting differently just by playing a new keyboard or a guitar or a percussion instrument. um, it's on my wish list.
Amazing. So this is on your question. This is on your book, Other Half of the Success.
Yes.
So apart from the bank statement or the designations that we carry, or on a LinkedIn, what is the other metrics that you kind of suggest people for their success?
Oh, well. So apart from being the coach, I also happen to be mentor for a lot of people. Typically, a lot of people reach out on LinkedIn, or even otherwise. The ability to hear back a story that, oh, that post that you made me think differently, act differently, and I have received so many of them in the last few years. Of course, it's on a platform of LinkedIn, but the fact is, then whenever I go to any events or programs, uh, people know me and are able to relate to the stories that I have written, which is heartwarming. I mean, actually speaking, right? And I feel if there is a way that people remember me through my stories, that is half the job done.
Amazing. So you have to choose between either of this,
Okay.
right? A perfect memory or a person with a perfect imagination in this world of AI.
Any day imagination, because memory is no longer something that you can boast about because AI remembers everything.
Okay.
But more than that, I would also say experiences,
Right.
because imagination requires you to experience new things. So one has to really push themselves to go and find ways to talk to new people, learn about a new culture, learn about
Right.
new geography, eat new food, have a point of view, right? Which is what will help you in the longer run than just boasting about the memory that you had. I mean, I don't think I need to now remember 8 into 8 is 64. But yeah, I would want to rather remember 8 countries that I would want to visit and figure out a path.
Thank you so much, Gopal. I think it was more of a masterclass for all of us in the science of
Sure.
learning. Um, the takeaway today is very simple. In the AI-led workforce, your degree is a history book, but
Yeah.
your ability to learn is your future. And for the audience, don't just work on your tasks, but work on your ability to learn. It's the only investment that doesn't depreciate at all.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for joining us for the Learning Company. Keep learning and keep evolving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.